Hey.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Hello, this is Lou,
Hi.
Kate, hi, and Nav. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll start with our initial questions for you, if that's okay. So, Lou, we'll start with you.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, so that the young people listening can get to know you a bit better, can you tell us about your career journey and your current role?
Ooh. Okay. So my current role, I'm a co-founder and chief operating officer at Wanda, and we are for the past 5-6 years, we've been a content marketing agency, and more recently an independent TV production company. So my journey started at college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought media sounded like a cool subject, and then I realised I actually really liked creating video content. So fast forward a couple of years, I went to university, studied TV and film production, but then couldn't find a job in the industry. I'm from the Northeast. I'm from Middlesbrough. It's in the past, it's been considered as quite a deprived area, but I completely disagree with that. Like, there's so much going on up in the Northeast, and it's a great region. But at the time, I maybe didn't have the confidence. Didn't go into the industry, and then me and my business partner Clover bought a one-way ticket to Australia. I'm cutting a lot of this story out, but one-way ticket to Australia, worked on some TV pilots using our experience, our little experience, and then from there we decided, let's set up Wanda, and spent 14 months traveling the world creating content for businesses. And came back home to the Northeast to hire and to really give it a go, and organically have grown to a team of 20, working with the biggest brands all over the world, and now recently won a few TV commissions as well. So yeah, really different way into the industry, I think, but yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, Lou. Also, just a personal thing, I went to Teesside Uni, I studied TV and film, and you've made it, and I'm here hosting you, so I think this is brilliant. Thank you so much. I guess we'll go on to Kate next, if that's okay.
Hello.
And Kate, what first attracted you to production, and how did you find out it was a career option for you?
So I think the thing that attracts me the most is about stories, and I love stories, and I love people, and I love finding out about people and telling their stories. And I think I was very, very lucky that actually, as a career option, I got after my GCSEs, I got work experience at a local TV station, an ITV station down the road from me. And I was one of those people, I was in the right place at the right time and took full advantage of where I was. So I was working on a small regional program, and the producer of the program I was working on unfortunately had a bicycle accident and ended up in hospital, which was terrible for him, but brilliant for me, because I was there like, I can make tea, I can do anything, just employ me. So actually, before I went to sixth form college, I had a few weeks of paid experience. I was paid £100 a week to make tea and help people because they were understaffed. And so from that point on, I was like, this is where I want to be. It was the team spirit, it was a collaborative enterprise, it was telling people stories. And so every Easter holiday, Christmas holiday, summer holiday, I did work experience. I begged to sort of do days here, days there, and all throughout university. I didn't do media at university, I did politics and English, but every summer holiday and Christmas holiday, I'd be trying to find work experience. So when I left university, I absolutely knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I was very fortunate at that time to get a job and just work my way up. I did everything. I make a brilliant cup of tea. And I was humble enough to just try everything. And now I run a television production company and distribution company called Woodcut Media. We're based primarily in Hampshire, but we have about anywhere up to about 100 people working with us all over the world. We make programs for people like Channel 4 and Sky and Amazon and Nat Geo and Discovery. So we work with the biggest and the best, but it all came from kind of just a love of stories, really.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kate. And you've got to start somewhere, right? And be useful and be able to grab those opportunities as they come. So thank you. And hello, Nav. Welcome. Our next question for you, Nav, is to work in TV production, do you think you need to go the apprenticeship or university route? Or as Kate's just said, are there other routes in?
Yeah, I think there's, there's many routes into TV, and I think it's important that should be the case. And I don't know if for a while it was very kind of, university degree biased. But there's so many different skills and so many different roles that you can do within TV. And they all require, if you want to be in development, writing skills, you might want to go and shoot stuff. So it's camera operating skills. You might want to be an editor. I think there's often people don't know that there's so many different kind of interesting roles within TV, and so that requires lots of different skills. And I don't think that university is the only route. And so whether you can get a sort of an internship, or whether you can use something like Screen Skills to who are a brilliant resource to hone your skills. Apprenticeships. I mean, I think it's an interesting thing. We also, by the way, have an office in Newcastle. We love Newcastle. We make Charlotte and Sunderland from there. And, we were really keen to sort of work with talent, from there. And we've worked we work really well with Northeast Screen and the BBC to also train people, but not just throwing them in and sort of see how it goes, but actually to have some meaningful funding where there's a bit of shadowing, where there's not a pressure on somebody, so you put them off before they start. So I think we can be more inventive about how people learn and join the industry, and I think it's massively important, because I think having one path leads to bland, homogenous kind of programming and thought. And what is really important, as Kate was sort of saying, is storytelling. And for us, if you don't change the storytellers, you don't tell the story, you don't change the stories, and that's so important. And I think the younger sort of audience at the moment, that's what they want. So diversity of people, thought, and approaches, because everybody has a story, everybody can create content. And sometimes it's just it's giving people the skills to articulate those stories, and I think that's what we aim to do in our company.
Thank you so much, Nav. It's really encouraging to hear how you nurture fresh and new talent across the UK. And I guess sort of to wind back, Nav, while we're still on you, can you tell us more about your career journey?
Yeah. So I sort of dropped into TV from a different place. So I actually studied law and trained to be a barrister, and then decided I didn't want to do that for many reasons, which I won't go into today. But what I really wanted to do was, sort of be more involved in journalism, and I was really inspired by things like rough justice programs, where you were righting wrongs and looking at things that you feel passionate about. And so I didn't really know how I was going to do that. So in my head, I thought, well, I'm going to be a journalist because I know I can write. With no clue as to how to do it. So I kind of, dropped out of that, much to my parents' consternation, and then sort of spent a year, moved back to my parents' house because I couldn't afford, to stay in my place, and then sort of just tried to, see if I could get into that area, and it was hard. And then but I worked on all sorts of things. I worked on pop promos. Just helping. I did some magazine articles. I worked on a sort of an Asian magazine that somebody had allowed me to review, and I just thought, oh, actually, I love this, so I'm going to try and stick at it. And then I sort of, I got my first job at the BBC, so I'd applied and then just landed there as a researcher, and then ended up working on Gloria Hannaford's morning live show, which was so far away from what I thought I was going to do, but like Kate, I was like, oh well, I've got an opportunity, I'm just going to go for it. So, so when I told my dad my first job was looking after a python or something in the green room, he was just not impressed. But I think every job that I've had in TV, I've taken away skills. And live TV is exhilarating. It's a bit of a beast. You have to think about stories. You learn quite early to write questions for the producer if you want to, and and because I'd come from another field, and I had to kind of persuade my parents that I'd done the right thing. I was just like massively curious about being in TV and excited. And so I think I just carried on sort of saying, well, I now want to direct. And then I learned to multi-camera direct. And then I was like, I want to produce. And, I did a bit of presenting that wasn't for me. I didn't take directions from the other side of the camera very well. I need to be on the other side of the camera. So I just had this like, oh my God, I'm so excited to be in this industry. And then I sort of, became a producer, director, and executive producer, and worked in freelance for lots of different companies. So I didn't stay with the BBC because I was just excited to sort of get, lots of experience. And then I worked on the other side of production. I was a commissioning editor at Channel 4 for about 7 years, where I commissioned things like Brat Camp, Child Genius. I looked after Super Nanny. I commissioned Bollywood stars. So that just sort of gave me a different understanding of the whole kind of media landscape that we operate in. And then I've worked as a director of development with Jane Root, and that was very American facing. So that was an interesting thing because it gave me a bit more of a global perspective. So I think you take all these things away in each job. And I think the ideas, what I've learned is good ideas can come from anyone. It's not the kind of head of development or this person. It can literally come from anywhere because we're all kind of being inspired by the environment around us. And then I sort of, we just kind of fell into sort of chatterbox. Ali, who's my business partner, we were thinking, well, we've been creating these ideas and IP for other people. How about consolidating what we do, having a bit of control where we can decide what stories we tell and how we tell them. And we started off with a small commission from the BBC. And then we just thought, okay, we better open a bank account, think of a name and get going. And that's like 5.5 years ago. And it's been an incredible journey, and we're still fully funded. We haven't given away an equity. We haven't taken an investment because we wanted to build a body of work that said something about us and where we could. And one of the big things, we did a small film for the BBC called Leaving Care, for which we won a BAFTA. And that was sort of two young men who were leaving care, and they told their own story. And so that sort of was the start of what we wanted to do, because growing up, I was like, my story's always been mediated by statistics, by experts, by analysis. And people don't want that. And so we've continued to do that in all the programs that we do. We feel like they are effortlessly diverse, and we try to tell stories and give people center stage that haven't always had that platform.
Thank you so much, Nav. I think the key theme from all of our answers so far is grabbing opportunities, and trying things, making sure that you're trying everything so you can work out what you're good at, honing on those skills, and what you don't like. So thank you, everyone, for our initial interview questions. We'll move over to our next set of questions, if that's okay, panel. And our first question is for Kate. And is, how do you think the TV and film industry has changed over the years, especially in terms of opportunities for young talent?
I think, I hope it's become more inclusive to young talent. And I think technology has made it so. The fact that everybody probably watching this is really good on their phones or really good at editing, an 8, 9, 10-year-old has the kind of editing facilities on their phone if they have one, or their pad or whatever, and they can make documentaries, they can make films, they can record the world around them. I remember when I was 9 or 10, I had a camera and I used to just take photos and make storybooks out of the photos. But now kids that age can just do it for real. And so actually the people coming to work, we work with a lot of young people at Woodcut, and we take people before university and after university. There's a kind of, we're eager to learn with them. And some of the stuff they teach me is just incredible. So actually, I think the opportunities for young people are greater than they have ever been, because they are more technologically adept at using what's around them and instinctively knowing how to do it. And I think because also we consume a lot of television, we consume a lot of narratives, that you kind of have an instinctive understanding of story. So whereas when I grew up, I grew up in a world of four channels that then went to 5 channels. I am that parent that's like, I used to just have, this one program that I could watch and that was it. But actually, young people today have the whole world of program, and they have also not just what's on now, they have a back catalogue of 50 or so, 60 years of television to draw from as well. So they can watch everything, they can learn about everything. And so they have this sort of head start in some ways of what makes great TV, what makes great content, what makes great story. So I am hugely hopeful. And actually, today there are 3 young women who are all in their 20s at Woodcut, and they're fantastic. And they're launching today a thing, and it's nothing to do with me, but it's called Woodcut Women. And I am so proud that these 3 young women have launched Woodcut Women on International Women's Day to help sort of empower women and tell women's stories. And that is the next generation, which just is super exciting to me, that it's carrying on, it's following through. So I think, and also I think there are jobs that are going to happen in 5-10 years' time that I don't know what they are. And this is what's really exciting for the generation who are at secondary school at the moment, is that you're going to be doing jobs that I don't know what it is. I don't know how AI is going to affect it. What's the kind of, the TV is going to change enormously in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years because of all the technological change. So there will be things and roles within television that I just simply can't even imagine at this stage. And that is hugely exciting and invigorating. And actually, as long as we all remember it's about the story, I think it's going to be good times ahead.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kate. I guess a follow-up question from me would be, that you've said there's going to be lots of roles that haven't been created yet. Perhaps for the young people on the call today, what are some of the roles that exist now that they might not have heard of?
That's a really good question, because I don't know what they would and wouldn't. So if you're taking, there are 2 basic distinctions in television. You have scripted television, which is drama and scripted comedy, or you have unscripted television, which are sort of documentary or factual entertainment, or even quiz shows or something like that. So in scripted television, there are a lot more roles with a lot of weird names that even at times I don't understand. So I have worked on a couple of dramas, and I was a sort of a third AD on a drama. Well, what's a third AD? Well, it's kind of that many steps away from the actual action or the director, and it's effectively a crowd herder. But they're called a third AD, or what's a best boy or a grip, all those kind of things. So there are lots of technical jobs with weird names in scripted. In unscripted, it's a little bit more simple. You have a sort of runner or researcher or assistant producer or director or producer director. If you're in a studio, there are more sort of studio directors, or if you're out on location, it could be a field producer or a story producer. There are new things called, new producers called welfare producers, which actually is a really significant thing in TV, as we are becoming more conscious of the world around us and our responsibility to those off screen and on screen. New roles such as a welfare producer, whose sole job it is to check on the welfare of the contributors in the programme. So if Super Nanny, for example, was made today, I suspect there would be a welfare producer on set to ensure the families and the kids are looked after well. So there are new roles developing every time, but it's quite hard to say what people haven't heard of, because there's everything from the technical, like going out and using the cameras and using the data that's in the cameras, to one of our great edit assists at Woodcut, which is one of our kind of junior entry level positions, as an edit assistant who works in the post-production team. He spent the last couple of weeks colouring archive using AI tools. That just blows my mind, because he's so clever and he's so kind of in that generation of knows how to do it. So yeah, probably not the best answer, but there are lots of weird and wonderful roles in TV.
Thank you, Sophie.
I think there's a lot of I don't know if I'm allowed to jump in, but I was just going to say there's a lot of roles that are outside of production, which I think is really important. There's a great sort of I don't know, like a diagram that Screen Skills do, which everyone should look at, and it just tells you all the jobs in TV and just like a line of what they do. So development, I think, is something that people don't always know they can do, and it's not necessarily going on location and filming and constructing programs, but it is Lou and Kate will agree, is the sort of, it's the engine driver of our companies, it's the revenue generator, it's everything about ideas, and that's an exciting job if that's what you want to do, generate ideas and write and create concepts, and I think lots of people don't know that you can just go into that area if you want to. And of course, there's all the post-production, which I would love more female editors out there. We always try to work with them, and I think I think it's just people don't always know that that's an option. So being an edit assistant, being a data wrangler, being an online editor, a grader, there's a lot of jobs. So it's really worth taking some time to look at the industry right across. There's many paths.
And also actually on that, and I think that's a really, really good point, is that it doesn't always have to be a creative job or a hands-on technical job. It could be an organizational job. So there are things called production managers or production coordinators, and their job is to effectively make sure the right person is doing the right thing at the right time in the safest and best way. So you can have sort of great organization or accountants. There are certain accountants or accounts assistant people who just love working in that TV environment, and they're not necessarily somebody who can write like a journalist or film like an amazing photographer, but actually love being in the TV environment. So their skill is maths, and they're really good at maths. Well, they can apply that in the world of TV.
Yeah, or lawyers, media lawyers. Worked with some amazing ones at Channel 4, and because editorial policy, compliance, duty of care, right of reply, all of these things when you're making documentaries is really important. So there's a huge support network that helps you make a program and get it on air. It's not just the people, the producer and the director or whatever that people have heard of. It's like a massive team that are carrying you and holding you up and protecting you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nav and Kate, for your answers there. Lou, we'll move to you next, if that's okay. Our question for you before we move on to our student Q&A is, what are some of the common misconceptions about working in the TV and film industry that you'd like to debunk?
Ooh, I mean, that's a really good question. I think we've kind of already touched on what I think, and maybe in my introduction as well, and that is that it's a certain type of person with a certain background or education, or from a certain location or socioeconomic background or whatever, like that, like when we think about TV, like I think Nav mentioned it earlier, it needs to be a really good variety of people from different backgrounds, because those stories can't just be all told from the same type of people. And I almost didn't follow my dream career, which is what I do now. I almost didn't do it because I maybe had some sort of like preconception about, I'm not that type of person. I can't be a producer, or like because of where I come from. I grew up on a council estate, and maybe it's just outside perception, like kind of just making me feel like not. I didn't have that confidence, maybe. But it wasn't until I went traveling and saw the world, and I came back, and I was like, I want to do this from home, from Teesside, and give opportunity to other people from the region, and train and develop talent and attract talent to here as well. So I suppose, the debunking is, I guess, TV's for everybody, and Kate mentioned it there about like all these different roles, and like there's lawyers and accountants and electricians and all sorts of things. Like so yeah, I think I'm sorry that it's almost like adding to what's already been said, but it's true for me. Like TV and content production, or whatever you want to call it, is for everybody. It needs to always be for everybody.
Can I add one small thing?
Absolutely.
TV is just not as glamorous as people think it is. You are more likely to be standing in a field, like holding somebody's handbag in the rain, than you are to be, you know, hanging out with Idris Elba. So just be aware that like it isn't like it's not an easy job. It's not a sort of I spend my whole time on Instagram looking amazing with celebrities. I spend most of it trudging through wet fields, carrying it. But it's worth it.
Absolutely. I think the passion clearly from you all is obvious. Thank you. And now I guess we've got about 15 minutes left of the call. We'll move on to our pre-submitted questions from our schools and young people, if that's okay, panel. And we've had quite a lot of them. So the first question is from New College Durham, and I think we'll ask it to Kate, is what would you say to someone aspiring to work in film and TV? What's your piece of advice?
Just go for it. Just go for it. Take every opportunity and don't give up, because you know I have people who message me on a monthly basis who I know want to work in TV and who are just going, and I may not have the right role for them on that very day, but in a month's time I might. So just, you know, if you're sending out your CVs, if you're trying to message asking for work experience, if you're trying, you know, just message people. We're all human. And yet somebody said something to me the other day which really resonated. We were all new once. And just remember that we may all look big and scary right now, but we all had to start out somewhere, and we all had to keep going and keep messaging. So if you want to work in film and TV, just go for it. Find your route in, which could be through a college or a university, but it could be through an apprenticeship scheme. It could be just badgering every production company within the 30-mile radius of where you live to say, can I just come in and spend a day with you, please? And when you get there, be grateful and take the opportunity.
Could I just add something to that?
Yeah.
Which is something that somebody had said to me when I started out, was because the thing is we do, I mean, Kate's right, we do get a lot of inquiries and people get in touch, and and the thing to know is people really do want to help, people do really want to support, people really do want to find fresh, original talent. But somebody had said to me, when you are emailing people and approaching people, it's quite good to have a question or a reason or something that you want them to consider, because then people want to reply and you're kind of going, okay, right, this is why, rather than here's my CV, you know, and that's it. So I think about that, you know, if that person's going to respond to you, what is it that you would really love, you know, a chat about this, advice on that, or you've got an idea that you'd like thoughts on. So I think bring something to the question, and you know, it's more meaningful on both sides.
Thank you so much. Lou, we'll come to you next, if that's okay. So this is a question from Farmers School, and it's, what skills do you need for this profession? Let's think kind of, I don't know, quite generic skills, not too technical.
Yeah, I guess I mean, if you're thinking about like your soft skills and then your like actual technical skills and things like that, I suppose I mean, being persistent and being like creative helps. But if you want to be in a one of the roles like a production manager or a production coordinator or something like that, then organizational skills. But I think just good communication skills is like, it goes really far, because and it doesn't mean that you have to be like fully there, because I mean, even like 6 years ago, I wouldn't pick up the phone. I'd be like, Clover, can you answer the phone? I don't want to answer it. But it's just kind of just being able to communicate with your team and working on that skill is probably the biggest thing, because you're not going to be working by yourself. You're going to be working with a big number of people, either on your team or other teams that you're collaborating with, or contributors or commissioners and pitching and things like that. So I'd say communications like a big one, perseverance, and just keep going, keep wanting to learn, but then the technical skills, just they come naturally with experience and training. I think as long as you're sure that you want to learn, then you'll go really far.
Absolutely. I think constantly being curious is one, as you say, communication. And we all know it takes a large team to make any piece of content. So teamwork in there too. Thank you so much. Nav, we'll come to you next, if that's okay. And actually, I'm going to ask this to the whole panel. It's come from Yuxol Aberconwy. Sorry if I've mispronounced that. If you could recommend one film for a young woman to watch, what would it be and why?
Ooh, so many.
Barbie.
That's a good
Has
shout.
to be. I have watched it many times with my daughters in the past year. We've been to the cinema a few times, and every man should watch it also.
Agree.
Yeah. I don't think I can name a better one, actually. That's a really good shout.
Yeah, well, I just say a different one. Probably because it's not a new film, but it's a film that I've loved, and it's called Monsoon Wedding by Meera Nair. And I just think it's brilliant. And being Punjabi, it just felt really authentic, like representation. But it is a story about women and the way that women, live together, help each other, and the challenges that they have to face. And it's beautiful, and it's got a lovely soundtrack. So I'd recommend that.
I was going to say I love the soundtrack. It's an amazing film.
We could be here
Great
for
choice.
We'll just continue on throughout the day with the sort of film recommendations. Thank you so much, everyone. Our next question is, and we'll start with Kate. What do you think is the best thing about working in the industry?
There's so many things, but I think for me, because a lot of my career I've been what would be called a documentary maker, so I've had a camera in my hand or I've been on location with a crew. It's being given access to people and places that you would never see otherwise. And for me, that is incredible. So I've been, at a birth, I've been in an operating theatre with a camera in my hand, looking into the inside of somebody's chest. I've been at, unfortunately, a couple of people who've died. I've been in places that you'd never. I've been on top of, I don't know, like Rochester Cathedral. I was walking on top of, like, literally the roof of Rochester Cathedral on a recce, thinking, not many people get to walk on the roof of some old spectacular building like this, or in Westminster Abbey at midnight because nobody else was in there and I needed to get in there to do some shots. Not many people get to access these people and places and life moments, and also stories. People, there's something very odd when you have a camera in your hand or a camera in the room. People just open up, and it's almost like a weird therapy at times, especially in documentary making, that you sit down and you're like, tell me about what happened. And you just, you're given an automatic pass into their soul, into their story, into who they are. And that, for me, is just the most incredible thing in television, is the fact that you get to understand people and places in a way that you never have before.
Wow, thank you so much, Kate. Lou, we'll come to you next. And I think this one's going to be another tricky one, so sorry. This is from Barton Paraval College.
It's my old college.
Oh, great.
Sorry.
What does a typical day look like for you in your job?
A difficult day is probably probably when everything that you've really planned for and you've got backups all planned for, but everything just seems to go against and it happens. Like you can plan as much detail and backups and whatever, but something will probably not go to plan, and a lot of no's in my side of the work anyway. I suppose if you're on the production side and you're actually creating something, maybe it's less no's, but for me, the most, like, you get a lot of no's from pitching ideas to commissioners, or projects that don't get the green light with a client, and it's like it's not a nice feeling, but it's just part of the job. And but then it's kind of forgotten about when you get that win and you're like, yes, like this is why I'm doing it. But yeah, on the production side, when things don't go to plan, and it can get it's a lot of pressure, and it can be frustrating at times, but there's always, we have a value at Wanda called solutions over problems, and we've said that from day one, because no matter what happens, there's always an answer, and there's always a solution. So we never go, oh, that's a problem, we can't do something. It's always, there's a little block here. Okay, how can we? All right, okay, that's the right way to do that. So yeah, that's probably it for us. Like either lots of no's is a generally a bad day, but it always is. It always ends up being a good thing, because you get the yeses, and then having to problem solve can be quite hard. But it's also it can also be really rewarding when you've found that solution, and it always works out. Like, we wouldn't be doing what we do if it was a barrier, or if it was like, oh, that's too difficult. So yeah, it's although it can be frustrating at times, it's a really rewarding part of the job.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lou. We've all got hurdles to get over. Nav, our next question for you is, what do you feel is your biggest career achievement?
I mean, yeah, so many things that I've been personally proud of, I suppose. I think something different in each role, perhaps, that I've done. So I think in terms of while I was in production, I'm proud of the sort of diversity of programs and skills, that I just had a go, and so I think at a time when it wasn't that common, but I'd done current affairs and factual programming and factual entertainment, but I also did my first drama documentary, and so I'm proud of that, because it's always worth having a go. That's what I'd sort of say. If you want to do it, if you really feel like you want to do it, just follow that passion. I think when I was at Channel 4, I commissioned lots of things, but one of the things I was proud of was Bollywood Star, because again, at that time, it was like, I don't know, too long ago, 50 years ago, it wasn't so common for something like that to be primetime TV, and I looked after primetime TV at Channel 4, and after lots of discussions and persuasions, it played at 9 p.m. on Channel 4, and it was the days when only Channel 4 would make those sort of things, so I'm super proud of that. And then I'm very proud of starting Chatterbox with my partner Ali Quirk, and of course getting the BAFTA is great, because it's just an acknowledgement. I think getting the BAFTA for something that you're very proud of is also just a bit of a cherry on the top. So those things.
Thank you so much, Nav. So panel, we've got time for a couple of questions before we pass on to Tara from IntoFilm. And Kate, our sort of final question for you comes from Access Creative College, and it's, how do you balance your own creative vision with feedback from producers, studios, or a test audience?
It's a really interesting question, because I suppose when you start out, you are a small cog in the team, and then as you progress through your career, you have more of a voice in that team, and your editorial judgment and say so becomes more listened to because of your experience. However, it's always a team effort. It's always a joint, endeavor, and everybody in a good TV production should have influence and say within it. But there is always, at the end of the day, when you send it to the commissioner and they make a change that you really disagree with, and creatively that is hard. Commercially, as a business, because I run a business now, my job is to get commissions and make brilliant programs and get another commission and keep the team employed and all of that. So sometimes you have to go, no, they are the customer, they are paying us the money. And also, they may be right. You're not always right. TV is a really subjective thing. I think the times when it is really difficult and the times when you choose to fight a judgment or something like that is when it's somebody's story and you know it's going to impact them in a negative way, or if you've been given access to a particularly emotional situation, that's when you really have to protect your contributor and protect the story and really fight for the telling the kind of the most purest, truthful version of events as possible. But it is interesting. I remember when I was younger, when I was first a series producer, and I made a 6-part series called Faith in the City, and it was really important to me. And I'd been given access to 6 different faith groups within one city, and I'd spent ages getting the access, and it was just after 9/11 as well, so it was all very kind of difficult in terms of emotions. And I remember storming out of the exec came in and wanted to make some changes, and I sort of shouted at him and stormed out of the edit suite. Because it meant so much to me. These were my films. I don't think I'd do that now, because I'm now more experienced and I understand that actually he may have had a point at times. It's a really, really difficult thing to do, because being a creative, you have to love what you do and believe what you do, and do it to the best of your ability. And then when somebody comes out and perhaps changes it, it can be really tough. But it's experience, and it's like Lou said, you can have some bad days and you just get over them, pull yourself back up again. It's like the Trolls song, and just get on with it. And it works out.
Thank you so much, panel. I guess we've got real quick time before we pass to Tara. Can you summarise your career journey to date in a few words, maybe 3 words, and we'll stick with Kate for now. Then we'll go to Nav and we'll finish with Lou.
I feel like I need to shout out to Barton Peveril again, which is my 6th form college, who enabled me to do lots of work experience when I was there. And I think work hard, believe in yourself, self-belief, and keeping the faith in yourself is like the number one goal. And be grateful. So when you get that opportunity, be grateful for the opportunity, take it, make the best of it, and then bring other people with you. Don't just make it about you. Put your hand out and bring the next set of people with you.
Thank you. Nav?
I'd say, well, what I would say is anything is possible. So that's, so be open. And sometimes you might have an idea or a fixed idea of what you want to do, but actually I think the fluidity of the business of content creation and telling stories, you don't know where it's going to take you. So be open, and just believe that anything is possible.
Thank you. And Lou, over to you for our final moments.
Yeah, I'd say my path is completely different to Clover's path. So do your own journey, learn as much as possible, absorb as much info from as many people as possible, and enjoy it, because no matter which path you go down, if you go down a path that you're not enjoying, then it probably isn't the right path. So kind of just learn as much as you can, find out what you do enjoy, and then go for it.
Well, thank you so much to our panel, and happy International Women's Day to you all. And we're now going to welcome Tara from IntoFilm.
Hi everyone, hope you can hear me okay. My name's Tara, I'm from IntoFilm. I'm just going to say a few words just to explain who we are, but I hope you enjoyed today's broadcast in partnership with Speakers for School and Pact, celebrating International Women's Day and National Careers Week, and supporting the BBC Bring the Drama Festival. I hope you've all picked up some really useful information from our panel today about careers in TV and film, and hopefully you've been inspired to consider a career in the screen industries yourself. If you're wondering who IntoFilm are and what we're all about, we're actually the UK's leading charity for film in education and the community, and we provide screen industry careers and information, advice. We support young filmmakers, and we bring the power of moving image storytelling into classroom teaching. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, and you like the sound of what you've heard today, and you want to find out more, young people who are age 13 and over can follow us on Get Into Film, and we're on Instagram and TikTok, and the links will be shared with you in an email after today's broadcast, so you can sign up as a young person through those routes. Or for teachers and careers leads, please do feel free to take a look at the IntoFilm Careers Hub to make sure that you've got all the information and training you need to support young people to explore careers in this exciting industry. And again, the link for that will be shared with you after the broadcast. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'll pass back over to Lily.